you're born, they tell you who you're supposed to love, who you're supposed to worship, who you're supposed to vote for. They tell you a lot of things.
Right.
And I believe that dissolving those artificial boundaries around labels creates space in between. That's what fluid is, the space in between two places, and encouraging everyone to be curious, to like look around and say, what's that like over there?
Hi, everyone. I'm Brittany Jackson-Mosley, the Director of Integrated Marketing at Scentbird, and today I am joined by fellow Michigander and CEO and founder of the Phluid Project, Rob Smith.
Thank you, Brittany. Thanks and Scent World for having me here. I appreciate it.
Yes, we are so happy to have you here and also to have the Phluid Project on Scentbird. You've had a career spanning over 30 years in the fashion industry, leading brands like Macy's, Victoria's Secret, and Levi's. And you founded the Phluid Project in 2018 as a, quote, gender-free fashion brand grounded in activism, community, and education. So I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about your mission and how Phluid Project came to be.
Sure. I'll start off with how Phluid came to be, first of all. So yes. Phluid came to be, if I could be totally honest.
Absolutely.
And people think I'm a little crazy, but in 2017, I went to my first Burning Man. And it kind of starts off there. If you know what Burning Man is, it's in the desert. And what I was struck by, besides how wonderful people are and kind and accepting and loving, is radical inclusion, acceptance. And just remember being struck by day 3 in this construct we've created with 75,000 people, that especially cisgender heteronormative men were running into our RV and saying, guys, can we borrow some tights? Can you paint our nails? Can you put some glitter on my face? And this liberation.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I was struck by the freedom and the liberation and just people being open to try anything and not having anyone judge them, just being like who they want to be. And then they come back to the city or work or wherever and have to go back to these constructs that have been created for people,
right, or
gender, race, sexual orientation, etc. So there's a saying, don't quit your job after your first Burning Man. I didn't know that. So I quit my job after my first Burning Man and decided to go on a journey of self-discovery to find out who I was and what I was meant to do in the world. And I ended up traveling through South America, Central America, through Asia. But all along that journey, I did a plant-based ceremony and asked the plant what I was supposed to do with my life. And I wrote down on April 14th, 2017, consider opening a gender-free, non-binary shopping environment. I wrote fluid in quotation marks. And I opened the store 10 months later.
What?
That was it.
That's the journey?
That's the journey, yes.
From Burning Man to today.
Yes.
What an incredible ride it's been, I'm sure.
It just was like, it was like the universe whispered into my ear. And I have been, and it's you asked about our mission statement.
Yes.
And it really, Phluid has allowed me to merge my profession, which is retail and fashion, with my passion, which is social justice, to put them together to create this brand. And our mission statement is we challenge boundaries with humanity. So we say just because things are one way doesn't mean there's not a better way. And can we find that better way, but do it with humanity, not with malice or harsh words or threats,
right? But
to pull people together and to work together to find a better way for everyone.
I'm obsessed with this mission. I think this is the mission that the world needs today. So it's so awesome to be talking to you about it. I did have a sidebar question. You said you went on a plant-based ceremony.
Yes.
Could you describe what the plant-based ceremony is? And should I do it?
And yes, you should. Well, I think, not everyone should. It's there's different plants. I still work with plants. I just hosted one last week at our house, a men's ceremony focusing on men and helping men heal, which I think is really, really important. They're interesting to see how men behave without women around.
Yeah.
A lot more vulnerable. I think that's really interesting.
That is.
But this was a month of ayahuasca in Peru, and I went into Peru and did a month of ayahuasca, which was, is it for everyone? Probably should be, but I don't know if everyone's ready for the truth. The truth is sometimes painful. It's like walking through a dark forest and getting through the other side. But I'm so happy to be on this side of all those things in my life that have held back or pushed back, and that I get to be me freely, and I love my life right now.
Yes, that's amazing.
Thank you.
And you feel so like buoyant and light, and there's something to that ceremony, right? It's kicked off a whole new part of you, and it's kicked off a whole new experience. I was going to say retail experience, but it's more than that. It's kicked off a whole new philosophy of business, matching that, the retail, the e-commerce, the business side of things with humanity, humanness.
Yeah. I mean, it's really a nice thing when you're able to take a business and bring a human philosophy into it.
Yeah.
We say at Phluid that regardless of your gender, your race, your orientation, your body size, your ability, your faith, the age, that there's a place for you at Phluid, that we create a space for everyone to be themselves and really work to dissolve artificial boundaries around each of these things. Because, when you're born into, and people put into you a box, they tell you who you're supposed to love, who you're supposed to worship, who you're supposed to vote for. They tell you a lot of things.
Right.
And I believe that dissolving those artificial boundaries around labels creates space in between. That's what Phluid is, the space in between two places, and encouraging everyone to be curious, to like look around and say, what's that like over there? And let's be curious. And that's one of my favorite things to do. And the PH in front of Phluid stands for balance. And
I was just going to ask that. I was like, it's Phluid with a PH. Like,
yeah. And the idea, like, we can find balance. I think about, yin and yang, the sun and the moon. I think about the divine masculine, the divine feminine. And I like to think of myself, indigenous folks. I'm part indigenous. The third gender existed for a long time, and it still does. There was an attempt to eliminate the third gender with the patriarchal system, because there's only room for, male and female, and there's a place for each. Yes, the binary. And in the place in between is where often indigenous communities, the shaman was a two-spirit, the third gender, because they embodied both divine masculine and divine feminine. And I believe that I'm beginning to live a life of that, the balance of divine masculine, divine feminine.
I love that. And this is a mild tangent, but personally, I just remember being, growing up and, always felt like a tomboy. And that was the word they used.
Yeah.
And my mother, being a Southern belle, is just like, okay, we're wearing this dress today. And me being like, okay, but I want the baseball cap that my dad's wearing too. And there wasn't a lot of language or lexicon for that. Just seeing celebrities, for me, it was like Aaliyah, who, again, very feminine, but the way she wore baggy pants and the crop top, like, that really spoke to me. And that's also how I found your store. I was walking down the street and I saw your store. I think it was when you had first opened up, and Phluid was a store that really called to my inner tomboy. And I walked in and I was like, oh yes, these are all things I can shop for and feel very comfortable. It kind of drew me in.
So the store was a great way to launch the brand.
Yeah.
Was to take a abstract idea, you like gender-free fashion, and to not put it on a website, but to put it into a physical space so people could walk in and go, oh, I get it now. Like at first, like there was like, of course, t-shirts and jeans is a big part of, and sweats is what we did. But another part of it was really fashion, was curating fashion brands, like, well-known fashion brands, and putting the men's and women's line together to create like a brand, one brand ethos for Levi's, one for Champion, one for Fila, and then showing how it could merchandise together with men's and women's clothes. That was really fun. And then having independent designers come in and do pop-ups and artists in residence, and some really cool designers. And yeah, it was, but my favorite thing about the store wasn't just that it was 2/3 of the space allocated to retail and fashion, but 1/3 of the space was allocated to community space. And during the daytime, there was a coffee shop and bleacher seating, so you could hang out and watch, people shopping. And at night, it was converted to usually like a bar.
Right.
And there would be events like fashion shows and panel discussions and comedy night and poetry reading. And about 5 nights a week, when the store was open, we have events to really bring out, the parts you mentioned, which are also not just fashion, but community and education and activism. and showing up, with the community for the community.
Yes, all of those aspects of the brand, even today, came together in the store initially.
Yeah, and I wanted it to be very visible. There was an idea that to have a lot of glass and to be very visible as opposed to hiding people in a space.
Yes.
Instead, letting it be a window into for the world to look into what the Phluid space was and who the Phluid community was.
Absolutely.
So I found this beautiful space at Great Jones of Broadway, right in NoHo, about 4 blocks away from Soho. And it was as magical a space as I could, kind of using white as the canvas.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything else became art on the canvas, the product, the people. And that was, and then finding, like, doing fun things like creating mannequins, which didn't exist. So I had to create those, and just was so much fun, like creating this thing out of nothing that had never existed before.
You've mentioned before that the brand is gender inclusive as opposed to gender exclusive, or, a brand that is inviting everyone in, whether they're a part of the queer identifying community or not. And the store absolutely drew me in as well, even though I'm not queer identifying myself. I could totally relate to the mission, the values. I wanted to come in, I wanted to learn. And I think there's a lot of universality to the brand that's really interesting and inspiring. So
I'm glad you felt that. It's queer-centric, but not
Yes.
queer exclusive.
Yes.
I think that the liberation and freedom that comes with queerness is universal.
Mm-hmm.
And I love to hear that you felt that way.
You said that many years ago, you began a journey to live a more passionate, honest, authentic, and altruistic life.
I think it's there was a moment when I was a young queer kid, and I was super creative and sensitive, and I decided that I didn't have many friends. Life wasn't super easy for me. I decided to create this guy, this football playing, basketball playing, track guy, and sports and everything else fell into place. And when I decided to reconcile things with my younger self, when I decided to really hold him and say, I'm sorry I left you behind, and he forgave me, I became a whole person.
Wow.
And that whole person is what I bring to this brand, because it's little raw, but it's also, little you and little everybody. It's like, how do we embrace our full selves and also embrace our masculine and our feminine, our identities? And that's what Phluid's about.
That's wonderful. That really spoke to me. I think a lot of us today, if we're lucky or fortunate enough to do the inner work and really dive into ourselves, are really trying to heal and speak to that 10-year-old child that's inside of them. So what are some of the ways you were able to get in touch with that person?
That's such a great question. So it's done through the plant work, and that's where I got in touch with him after him ignoring me in therapy and hypnosis. I finally got through to him. And when I got through, he just looked at me and he said, I just want you to make me proud. And I think about the young people that walk into the space when it was a physical space, and there's still the people that I see on the journey of the brand. I see these little young faces, and they feel affirmed. They feel seen.
Yeah.
They feel like someone has, and some brand has actually considered them in who they are. And that transcends, like I said, transcends any queer identity. It transcends into every little person who felt like the world wasn't looking at them. The world was thinking about other people with different color skin or different ethnicity, different body size.
Oh, I love that.
Thank you.
I'm tearing up, little fun tear. So today we are going to talk through your 4 beautiful fragrances. I would love for us to smell together a little bit, and then we could talk about the notes, what it evokes for us, and then I have some follow-up questions. So where do we want to begin?
Well, let's begin with the whole idea of the scent collection.
Let's do it.
About it being a gender inclusive, gender expansive collection. So what we did was take we worked with the Scent Beauty team and 4 artists from around the world to create each scent. And the idea was taking traditionally masculine scents and feminine scents, mixing them together to create these really balanced scents that, I say in any household, it's truly good that everyone in the house should be fighting over
Yes.
it, regardless of who's in the house. Yeah, it's for everyone.
Yes, they're shared. And a little bit on the idea of a shared fragrance. Do you have a term that you prefer? Gender fluid?
I like gender free.
Gender free, yeah.
Yeah, to me, it's about being free of gender stereotypes or gender limitations. So I say gender free.
I love
That's just
it.
me.
So let's smell through some of these gender-free fragrances that you guys have so artfully put together. Let's start with Transcend, actually. For those of you who can't see, there's a beautiful pink bottle here. All of the fragrances represent the missions and values of Phluid, and Transcend is the first one we're going to speak to.
That's right. You want to talk about some of the notes?
Yeah. So Transcend is lovely. I love this quote. It empowers you to freely embrace who you are. And you could truly smell that as you sniff through this fragrance here. So I know we have elements of dragon fruit, tiare flower, vanilla, little palo santo.
That's
maybe?
right. Sea salt. Yeah. Try that one. I'll tell you what it does for me. It takes me to a tropical island. Like it's an escape with all of those scents, the palo santo and the sea salt and the dragon fruit. How do you feel when you smell that?
I feel so calm. You saw me close my eyes. I was there with you on this beach, on this relaxing vacation. I think it gives it feels a little bit fruity. That's the dragon fruit, but there's also a little bit of warmth.
For sure.
It's lovely. A little bit of floral. See, I can see anyone wearing this. Truly,
the vanilla kind of breaks through too.
Yeah, the vanilla. That's like that a little addictive quality. I've noticed that in each of your fragrance, there's something in there that, you're like, I can't stop smelling this.
Yeah, it starts off with that fruity, like you said, but then it gets real earthy inside, like once you get into the back notes.
I love this.
I always think about this when I think about somebody in New York City on a hot subway or in a bus, and just all of a sudden you're like, Transcend, take me away.
Right?
You just forget about where you are. You just close your eyes and you're like, oh my gosh, just gone.
This is why I love wearing fragrance at the gym. People are like, why are you spraying on perfume before the gym? My husband, why are you doing this? Now he does it too, because it's like, well, I can smell myself and it gives this mindful aura.
Sure.
I can concentrate on what I'm doing.
And it brings a bit of serenity too, I think, if the right sense. I guess it depends. If you want to be bold, you can be bold, or if you want to be serene. Like I put some of these on for yoga when I just want to be really just kind of centered.
Very centered. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think Transcend, the word originally when we did it, it was bicolored. It was pink and blue. It was more oil. We made it more of a alcohol scent, so it stayed longer. But it was pink and blue, like the color of the trans flags. And Transcend was a nod to the trans community. But I like the word transcend to just as things are so tough and as conversations are rough and as people are fighting each other, the idea to transcend all of it into a space of peace and harmony, that's what that word means to me.
I love that. It is such a wonderful scent. It just gives me a little bit of
I'm still smelling it. It's just nice. It's so nice. It's so nice.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Okay, let's smell balance next.
Balance. Okay. Balance is the strongest scent. Balance it's the keynote is an apple, so it's crisp.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I like about balance is it reminds me of when I get out of a shower, and it reminds you of a fresh, clean shower, and it's super fresh and fruity.
I know there's a little bit of bergamot in there, a little bit of aromaticness with that lavender. Yeah, this is that out of the shower freshness.
It sure is.
Doesn't
it get a punch?
It's so good. It's got that that crisp apple I really smell.
Yep.
So lovely. There's a confidence to this fragrance.
Certainly a confidence. It's if you walk into a room and you want a little bit of attention, you want people to go, who's that?
Yes.
And it's clean.
Yes.
And crisp and fresh. And yeah, it feels
it feels grounded and put together.
Yep.
But also not overly serious. It still feels like approachable and
It's a young, playful scent, I think.
young and
Yes,
playful.
yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's lovely. There's a lot of familiarity to this. Like and my dad is a cool person, so this isn't bad, but like it reminds me of like hugging my father. There's still, again, like all of your fragrances, I still smell something that's warm and approachable. They smell like a smile.
Like a smile. That's a great way to put it.
Love.
It's a fresh, vibrant scent for sure.
Fresh and vibrant.
Fresh and vibrant.
And we love it. So for those who aren't watching right now, again, I wanted to point out that this bottle is blue. And I know you mentioned you had to do a biphase formula to achieve these. Could you tell us about the process of how you've colored the bottles and maybe what the color blue represents for balance?
Yeah, so the color blue for balance, it makes me think of like when I smelled balance, it smelled like water to me. It smelled like clean and fresh, which is how it got to the blue coloration. And that's just how it ended up as the blue scent.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So it's grounded in reality.
Yes,
something
exactly.
people
Yes.
can relate
it's like
to.
literally like, like I guess most men's scents are all mostly about water,
right.
And this one is probably in the scale of masculine, feminine, which we're used to, the closest to the masculine side. But also it's fun when I do appearances and, someone's like super feminine coming up and they like balance. And it's like them embracing their like masculine side too, which I love.
I think, I could wear that to an important meeting.
For sure. Yes.
Embrace a little bit more of that fire.
That's right. It's less soothing. It's more like kind of, it's a wake up.
It's there, confident, bold. How do you actually create the colors? Do you know how the colors are created?
Well, dyes, but I think.
What is the process?
Well, the one thing I would just say about them is they're 100% natural. That they're clean, that they're certified clean scents. So even down to like the certain notes, we had to eliminate some that were not environmentally friendly. So it's really like it's good for the environment. It's really good it's good in every way, good for your body too. But in coloration, we had to consider that as well, how we colored the scents. Yeah. To keep them clean.
Keep them clean.
Keep them clean.
So they're
good for your body, good for the environment.
Good for all, right?
That's right.
Okay. So the next scent we're going to smell is Intention.
All right.
I think this was one of the best sellers, right? It's definitely one of my favorites.
Believe it or not, like 50% of our sales come from Intention now.
Ooh.
And it's the newest scent. And customers have really responded well to this one. It surprised me how well it's been responded to because it's warm and fruity. So it starts off with a really fruity, almost candy-ish smell, but then followed up really quickly with woodsy. And so it's an interesting combination. It's purple for those who can't see it.
My favorite color.
And it's one of my favorite words, Intention. And I'll let you go through some of the notes that you smell if you can.
Oh my gosh. There's something like warm and addictive about this. I'm getting a little amber. I smell the woods. I believe you said cedarwood, right?
Cedarwood, yep.
The mandarin opening. I love reading the descriptions of your fragrances. This one Intention is like a kind of magical energy. This scent imbues you with the self-determination to make your mark in your own way. Empowered by Intention, you have the certainty to pursue your purpose freely. And come on.
And one of the cool things about this scent is it is very similar to Baccarat Rouge.
That's the familiarity.
That's the familiarity. It's we've done some tests, with them together, and nobody can tell the difference. So, and we didn't do that intentionally.
Right.
I mean, funny, the words were intention. It was not intentional.
The intent behind Intention was not.
It was just done by its own scent, and it just so happens that it's one of the best-selling scents, and it smells very similar.
I love this.
But it was created individually without any understanding of what they were doing.
Right. I think the whole ambery woods just gives such like a warmth, an excitement. It's a little sensual too.
It's a little sensual. It's Yes, that's a great word.
Yeah. Fully embracing who you are. This is great.
It's a great scent. I can smell it still like from here. It's just, it's so refreshing.
I love. Intention's definitely one of my favorites here.
And now we're going to go to
humanity.
The last but not least, humanity, which is yellow color. The word itself, sometimes like the words mean a lot, like intention. Before an important conversation, I spray intention. Just the idea of like, going into a conversation with intention. And humanity is, I'll be honest, like, especially the summertime, how we start every day with humanity, it just means a lot. And it's also, for me, got a great summer vibe too.
Yes. Ginger, jasmine, sweet coconut.
Coconut's like the first smell the first thing
That's
that
the first thing you get.
But then you start to see it, the other ones. Give it a try. Let me know your thoughts.
I definitely get a citrusy, sunny vibe, but also there's something a little bit like spicy in here. Maybe the ginger. I think the ginger.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like a solar sunny. Yeah, definitely an
fresh
outdoor
solar
fresh
scent. Doesn't that feel summery to you?
It does feel like summer. Now I'm hearing the Childish Gambino song, Feels Like Summer. It feels like we outside. This is what this is giving. Like, and we're experiencing this now too in New York City, where it's been cold for so long. It's been rainy. This feels like that first day where you're allowed to step outside and you.
That's right. You're wearing a tank top and it smells like summer.
Love it. Summer weather. So I hear that the way you've developed these fragrances is super collaborative. Can you tell me about the process for developing the fragrances?
So it is collaborative. It's one of the things that as a person who, this brand is for everyone. And so one of the things we wanted to do is get people's, not just make it about what I like, because frankly, who the hell cares what I like? I like them all, but it's not about creating sense for me. It's about creating sense for people. And so we created these cards with scents and we passed them out in New York City during summer, during Pride 50, the 50th anniversary of Stonewall, plus throughout the rest of summer, and had people vote and share their thoughts.
Wow.
So we started to take this information and then we started to share this information, what people really liked, with the perfumers who created them. So it was a collaborative effort with thousands of people weighing in on what they liked, and it was really fun. And then one day after like everyone worked, they took the information, the 4 boxes showed up, and I got to smell them each. And then I was trying to figure out what to name them, and I looked up on our wall in our basement. We had our values up on our wall. And I said, "There's the names right there," and it just kind of came just like that. That's how it happened.
I love that you trust your gut and things just actually. It feels like the universe speaks to you at all times. Like you're open.
If we're in the flow, the universe is speaking to us always.
I love
And whether
that.
we choose to listen or not, that's up to us.
That's the key here. And each of these scents kind of puts you in a mindful space. So hopefully you get a little bit of being in the flow. You get a little bit of that when you smell them, when you spray them on your body. It centers yourself.
It certainly does.
I find fragrance to be such a great ritual. It's like that one moment, even if you're in a rush, when you put it on, you can't rush that. You just kind of put it on and you're like acknowledging something. You're being mindful.
That's right. Just taking a moment to be.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like also about these scents too is they're not super strong. So we also encourage layering too. So I'll layer throughout the day.
Ooh.
Like I really like to layer Transcend. Intention and Humanity are two of my favorites. People have their other favorites too, but those are two of mine in the summertime that I really like to layer. And then you get like a whole nother layer of scents. It's a lot of fun. They don't fight each other; they complement each other.
Oh, I love that. And I mean, again, everything you do is like part of your mission and values. You just said they don't fight each other.
There you go.
They complement
each other. That's the way we're supposed to be, isn't it?
Exactly. And that's how humans should behave, right? It's
Let's
so cool.
follow these scents, everyone. Let's
follow
do it.
them.
Let's follow the scents. Follow the children and the scents.
Follow the children and the scents. Let's transcend. Let's find balance in our life. Let's work with intention, open-mindedness, and
bring a little humanity. Come on, the humanity.
The humanity. So a few months ago, you posted a Q&A on your TikTok, which is at Phluid Project, if you guys didn't know. And the prompt was queer people under 30 ask questions. Queer people over 30 answer them. You got close to 2,000 comments, like a lot of engagement on it. It was so wonderful. What a beautiful moment of community that post created and your TikTok community created. It was both heartwarming and heartbreaking at some moments.
Yes.
So I wanted to take some time to read some of the questions from your actual TikTok community and have you answer it. I'm not saying how old you are. I'm just saying that this is relevant.
I might get emotional. I mean, I scroll through, read those. They're both heartwarming and heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It does get better, everyone. I'll just say that it does get better.
Absolutely. So this first one I'll read is from someone named Win with 2 exclamation points. Will it be easier as I get older to accept that some family will just never support me?
Yeah. Not everyone will accept you, especially at the beginning. They have got some learning to do themselves. They have to go through their own process. So I always think about myself as a young person. I had to get comfortable with myself and my queer identity, and then sharing it with my family. It wasn't like they were like right away, like, they went through their work and they almost entirely came around. I'm lucky. I know I'm blessed and fortunate but you'll find out who sticks with you, and you might be surprised who's going to stick by you in the long journey. And it's not always the people you expected. So just know that people do come around. They do love you. And in that process, have your chosen family help support you on the journey if you're having a tough time with your birth family.
Thank you for sharing that. There was quite a few questions in that realm. Jack Yates here says, under 30, how do you find queer community in real life? Like, I feel like I don't fit into queer spaces and sometimes have a hard time making friends.
It's hard, like big town, small town. I actually find small towns have a more unified community.
Wow.
Like in small towns, there might be like, if you're old enough to go to a bar, there's a bar and that bar has, gays, lesbians, trans, all people, different colors, different ages. And that's small town queerness. And then big town, like we separate, we divide, but bars are one place. It's not a great place for everyone. I think one of the reasons I like Phluid was a community space, that people could come and hang out, and whether you have a label or not. But they exist. Sometimes they exist in like a running group, or they exist in some other places besides bars. People find place in community. It just takes a little bit of research and also test and trial and error. I got to tell you, I tried some places. They weren't the best, but it was about trial and error. And then you're going to find your tribe, and they exist.
Yeah. I love that.
And sometimes they're virtual too, but in person's better for sure.
Right.
That person you curl up on a couch with and watch Netflix series and stuff like that. It's really nice.
Yeah. You'll find your tribe.
You'll find your tribe.
That's wonderful. Okay. This one is kind of related to something that we talked about earlier today. And someone named Jay says, how do I express my gender fluidity in the corporate world without feeling like I'm out of place? I don't want to choose between comfort and success.
Yeah, that's a great question. It depends on the space you're working in. Some spaces are very traditional. Some are, like marketing, creative agencies tend to be more creative.
Right.
If you're in financial services, it might be hard to show fluidity. I think there's some ways to do it in subtle ways, like a glossy nail, instead of a color nail, or, a looser blazer instead of a structured blazer. So there are ways to do it, and just keep playing around with it. I think that being your authentic self at a space that's not an affirming space doesn't necessarily mean like it's super welcoming.
Right.
And I think a lot of times, especially queer people, we find a lot of times that we're really code switching, and we're dressing, how we dress on the weekends is different than how we dress during the workday. It depends how important the job is to you, financial security. I think that a lot of it's just test, trial and error, and just keep trying things. And, I see people now more and more, especially in the feminine, masculine side, showing up and pushing the boundaries at work, still staying within the dress code, but really pushing it. But their authenticity shines through, their talent shines through. And I think they create they're special. They become more special and treasured and in spaces like that.
Yeah, I think it's hard, but people, the good, like you mentioned, the good people will find you and be able to relate to you and will support you even or champion you.
I just remember being a young person and just not like when people wanted me to interview for jobs, I would just dress as outrageously as possible because I thought, do you really want me? Because this is what you're going to get.
Right.
And I was pretty crazy as a young person. So, but a company who truly values you, has good leadership, you can be your full self. Bring your full self to work. If you bring your full self to work, you're going to be more productive because you're not hiding anything. You're showing up.
Yeah. You don't
showing
have to
up
waste
instead of showing off. I think that's what
showing
people,
up, not showing off.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the challenge. Or I think it's great when you can show up as your full self. You don't have to waste your brain energy.
That's right.
In the code switching. It's something I think that's, relevant to me as well. Once I decided to show up, Brittany from the Detroit area, I've been doing much better.
Yeah, there's been times in my life when I came out at my early 20s, and back then, like, people wore suits and women wore pantyhose, and I decided, no way, not anymore. Like, I was going to be me, and I refused to wear a jacket. I just would wear a vest, and I refused to wear ties. I wear makeup to work. I got my ears pierced, and I just wanted to be like me.
Yeah.
And that was a part of me. And we kind of go through parts of ourselves, but I do remember there was a certain point in my career. And it was with one of the big companies you mentioned. And I remember that they hired a coach for me on public speaking. And I thought I was a pretty good public speaker. And then she sat down and she started scrolling through what the senior C-suite looked like. And I remember looking at her. I'm like, you're not a speech coach, are you? She said, no, she's not. And she said, well, just look at the way you're dressed. And I was wearing this super skinny suit with like pointy shoes, a hot pink shirt, a Poochie tie. I thought I was looking fine.
That sounds fire.
That sounds fire. Exactly. And she said, in the way your hair is cut, like you don't look like them. If you want to be with them, you're going to have to start to look like them or start to adjust. And I said, you know what? I think I've spent enough time here. It's time for him to move on. And that was the beginning of the process of me leaving a company after 22 years, where I was always encouraged to be myself, always kind of a bit of a rebel, I guess. Right. Yeah. Not a rebel. Like, I just think about things differently. And I did that on my whole life and my whole career, and was successful. But at a certain point, like once you got to that big room at the top of the building, I had to look a different way and talk a different way. And I just wasn't ready to change.
I love that. Well, you decided that the space didn't serve you anymore, and
That's right.
You sought to find a space that would affirm you a little bit more,
which
is really empowering. I feel like a lot of people are afraid to do that.
It takes courage to say, I disagree. It takes courage to say, this is who I am. I think that if you're really good at your job, if you're really respected, then you can start to like push those boundaries and make those challenges. But people don't realize is when somebody in a leadership position, when you know your stuff and you question them or challenge them, they have more respect for you if they're a decent person.
Yeah.
They don't, and they're like, really, tell me more. That's what a good manager is. That's what a good leader is. Now, there's not always good people.
Right.
Some people feel threatened, and so you'll lose your job. So I just, I went through a life of fearlessness, of I was supported and encouraged to be myself. And that was really empowering.
I think everyone can use like a little bit extra. We can all take a little bit of Rob's fearlessness into our everyday lives. Okay, so my last question from the TikTok community, and there are so many, is how do you find the energy to keep going? It's a fight every day to keep going, knowing I'm not promised a tomorrow because of who I am.
Everyone goes through stuff, and life can be hard and can be challenging and throw you curveballs and hurdles. But know that what I like to think about is the impermanence of everything, that nothing lasts forever, that this moment will pass, and that hopefully by pushing through it and honoring the feelings, that you come out of the other side better than you did when you entered it. And any situation, any spaces like that through the pain, through the hurt comes growth. and and you just continue to build on that and become the person that you are.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love this. Thank you so much for answering those questions.
Sure, it's a lot of fun. Great stuff. And there's 2,000 comments like that in that post.
Yeah.
It's just a single still with some music and just a statement or question. And it's just the response we were just all shocked by.
Yeah. It makes sense. I think there's a lot of people out there who are looking for community, looking for ways to feel empowered, to feel like they're seen. And the TikTok community, and I know all of your social media and the brand itself are a great place, great community for people who are looking for that. So that's awesome.
It's really affirming knowing that young people are looking for some insights, and older people are looking to help younger people understand that, challenges, that you get through these challenges. And so it was really nice to see each other leaning in, asking questions, and the other half leaning in and giving insights. It was beautiful. It's what you want in real life, isn't it? Is that kind of relationship and searching people like that for people who can fulfill that part of your life.
Absolutely. Everyone, I think, is searching for that. Thank you so much for sharing everything about your journey, about the Phluid Project, your mission and values with us. And we're so excited to have your brand, the Phluid Project, on Scentbird. Thank you so much.
I'm so grateful that you're taking this brand that matters so much to me and so many people, and giving more visibility to the community that you serve. Thanks for the opportunities. And I hope everyone enjoys the scents. I'd love to hear your feedback. And happy summertime with these beautiful, beautiful scents.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been my pleasure too. Thanks for caring so much.